On today's show, I have Robert Halfpenny with me. He's the Regional Sales Director APAC and Japan at Quark Expeditions. Now, Richard has a strong passion for learning new skills, and he receives professional satisfaction through leading and coaching teams towards exceeding individuals, but also organizational goals. Richard had the pleasure of establishing a very strong network of contacts within the travel and tourism industry in Australia, but also worldwide. Joining Richard today on the show is Tenille Hunt. Tenille Hunt is the BDM of APAC at Quark Expeditions, and she has joined them in May 21. I have met Tenille 2019 when I was going through the graduate program of Time, and ever since was impressed by her dynamic, positivity, but also strong networking skills. So I'm really looking forward to this show. Hello and welcome back to our Time podcast. This week we will look a bit further into the cruise industry, and I have Robert Halfpenny and Tenille Hunt joining me. Welcome on the show, the two of you.
Thanks, Timo. We're really excited to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks, Timo. Very exciting.
Thank you. Tenille, you're also a graduate of the Time program, are you?
I sure am. I graduated in 2019, 2019, but I've been actively involved over the last 2 years as well through the Mentor Me program and just attending the weekly sessions. So I'm actually on the task force in Victoria with Ingrid on the committee.
Fantastic. 2019 was apparently a very good graduate year. So I think I graduated the same year.
I think you did as well.
Robert, you have your, I think, second day. Is that correct?
Yes, second day with Quark. So I was one of those few that kind of left the industry for the last year, but then just the passion for the industry was there and had to get back. So, and I have to admit, I feel for everybody. This past year was tough, but it looks pretty promising. And day one was the announcement from the PM. So pretty exciting time to start too. Such a great brand.
And it's absolutely exciting that you took the time to be here. Thank you so much again. I suggest we start with the icebreaker session to learn a few things about you that we don't see on your LinkedIn profile or CV or whatever public source of investigation that we have. And I think we do ladies first.
Should I be scared?
ACDC or... All right. So, AC/DC or ABBA?
ABBA, definitely. Yeah. ABBA fan. Love singing along and dancing to the songs. Definitely.
Robert, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Sadly, I'm an early bird, and I used to be a night. So that's ecstatic.
I've gone through that process as well already. Excellent. Tenille, half marathon or sofa?
Half marathon or sofa. Oh, I would love to say half marathon, but I feel like lately it's definitely been a lot more on the sofa.
All right. Robert, gardening or cooking?
Oh, geez, both. Or I guess if I had to choose one, maybe I'll go for the cooking.
Cooking. Okay, yeah. That's good. Wednesday on.
But I like getting in there in the kitchen. We had a new kitchen put in a few years ago, and then all of a sudden I thought I was a chef. Nobody eats my food, though, except for me.
Okay. Tenille, what's your favorite travel destination and why?
Oh, that's such a hard one. That's a very hard one to answer. I mean, for me, the obvious, I work for a polar company and I've sold the polar regions for 12 years, and I've been lucky to have been on a few expeditions, but honestly, for me, nothing compares to Antarctica. I have been to the Arctic as well, but there's just something so special about being in Antarctica, standing on the peninsula, just surrounded by that wildlife. It's just nothing, even the second time there, it still is just the most majestic feeling.
Okay. Robert, what is your favorite travel destination?
My favorite travel destination, I'm right up there with Tenille on Antarctica. I've been down there 3 times. And I haven't been to the Arctic yet, right? So I don't know what that's like. I think that's more like hunting around for wildlife, where it's just absolutely in your face down in Antarctica with just thousands of penguins and so much life and so many things to see. And I'm going to throw this in there, and this is the reason why. One of the things that drew me to Cork is the helicopters on that ultramarine, because when you're down there and you're looking off into the distance, you think about, God, what's over that horizon? Wouldn't that be awesome? And now with these helicopters, you can get out there and, I mean, taking, remote to a whole nother level. So you can be stepping in places people never been before. So that gets me really excited. Yeah. So I love the Antarctica, and I love the surf. So that's a little bit different, like getting up to Mexico or anywhere in Australia. I'm quite happy on the coastline.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's probably very difficult to combine the two of them.
Yeah. Although I did have a guy try to do that, Chris Brown, with the Bondi Vet. He tried to bring a surfboard with him on a trip I took with him down to Antarctica, but didn't work out.
Wouldn't recommend it. I'd love to chat a bit about the cruise industry, because first of all, I'm not a big expert when it comes to that, so I might ask a few questions that are rather simple. So I appreciate your expertise and insights. The first thing that came to my mind when we spoke about, being together on the show is obviously the cruise industry having had a big impact through COVID-19 and had to adapt. So is there maybe a few changes that you can highlight that came out of the pandemic for the cruise industry?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one, and I'm sure Tennille would add to it. But I think the biggest impact was everybody in their buying consideration needs to probably look at prices, itineraries, and dates. And then now you definitely have to layer in health and safety and flexibility of, cancellation policies, and then sustainability is right up there as well. So it's becoming a bit more complex. So I think that's probably the biggest change is people just want to know that they're going to be, safe, and their loved ones as well. So, I mean, we've addressed that at Cork. We have our safe COVID policies that we've put in place, and then we have a really flexible and I think forgiving cancellation policy where you can cancel right up to 24 hours prior to departure.
Oh, wow.
So we've taken that, and then we'll talk more about it, but the sustainability is also something that Cork, and I think anyone in expedition and in cruise is right at the top of everybody's consideration now as well.
Okay, that's interesting. So Freedom Day is pretty much around the corner. It might be Friday, it might be Monday, we don't know, but it's within 7 days, and international borders are not too far away as well. Now, a lot of people always say the whole pandemic period has changed their perception of locality as well, changed their perception of what's important to life for them. Some seek a bit more of a nature experience. Some think travel is not as important anymore. If you look at the cruise industry as a whole, do you think there's a change in the destinations that were popular pre-COVID compared to then post-COVID?
I'm happy to jump in there. Absolutely. I think that COVID's changed the way that people travel, destinations that they're going to choose to travel to, and also the companies that they travel with. I think more than ever, people want to know that they're travelling with a company that A's got strong COVID policies, and then B is travelling in a sustainable and environmentally friendly way. I guess a lot of people, as you said, some people have decided they don't want to travel. Some people have decided they do want to travel, but they've had their freedom for 18 months. I know myself, I can't wait to travel again. And the way that people are going to travel, it's, a lot of people have come out of COVID, I guess, with more money. Not everyone in the travel industry, but some people have come out and they've got more money to spend on travel. And those destinations that were bucket list destinations for so long, I guess, like Antarctica, the Ionia, Canadian trips, they're no longer going to be bucket list destinations. People aren't going to put them off for another 18 months or 2 years because they've lost that freedom for so long. So I think that more so than ever, people want to travel just more related to the cruise industry with small ships. They don't want to be on, traveling with big crowds. They want to, be away from the crowds and just be a little bit more isolated.
So that would actually be my next question. So you expect the ships in general to be smaller again? Because pre-COVID, we obviously had the trend like bigger the better. There was like a huge entertainment park pretty much on every ship. So you think it will go a bit back to more boutique again and experienced like natural habitat experience? Is that what he's saying?
I mean, I'd layer in on what Tennille said there is that people are looking, I think that they've had a lot of time to think about it, right? And so now they want to swell themselves a bit and get out there. So they'll pay a bit more. But the remote regions also have that extra benefit of getting out and seeing the wildlife and places they weren't able to experience in the past. With COVID layered in there as well, when you go down to Antarctica or the Arctic, you're exploring remote destinations where it's just wildlife, it's not communities. So they're safer in general, right? Because you're not conversing with communities. So there's that. And then with the smaller ships, like we're part of IATO and IACO, but there's limits to the amount of people that can go on to shore because these are such delicate destinations. Like with IATO, they have maximum of 100 people on a landing. So you want to probably choose a smaller ship because you get more time in those destinations, and that's the reason why you're going down there and to see the wildlife and so forth. So our ships are all under 200. I mean, you can get some that are actually 120. So if you're on the shore and you're on a landing, let's say a landing's for like maybe 3 hours, you can spend the whole time down there because those extra amounts of people are out on doing activities with Cork. Cork's pioneered these things like kayaking and now heli hiking and heli kayaking. We've got heli sightseeing with our ultramarine. So there's lots of things to do when you're down there to really immerse yourself, and that's what people want to do. They want to have experiences, and so combining the remoteness, the safety aspects, the wildlife, and small numbers. It's really an appealing opportunity, and that's why I think people are going to go to these boutique smaller ships.
It's interesting. So you mentioned your biggest shift is, I think 120 was it? So fairly small.
The biggest ship is 199. So that's the maximum that you'll ever have with Cork. And that's the ultramarine. But when you take 199, that new ship if you use 30 years worth of Cork's experiences to build it. So there's actually 2 ready rooms, like mud rooms to get ready. There's 20 Zodiacs to go out on. There's 2 helicopters. So there's so much activity happening on that ship. The smaller ships that are 120, they may not have helicopters, but they have the Zodiacs, they got the landings. And so people are out kayaking, maybe 20, and 100 people are doing the landing. So we're never exceeding our amount on land. So you can really spend more time and immerse yourself and really, really have a good time. That's what Cork's all about, and the destination.
Yeah. So if the ship's already smaller, what did you have to change in regards to the COVID board to be COVID compliant, to be in line with the requirements and expectations? Considering it was already smaller, did you have to make a lot of changes?
I'll jump in on that one because I've been studying it as almost like a consumer, right? As I was taking the role, but they put on 2 doctors, so they have 2 doctors on board. They've done and help me out, Tennille, you'll know the details here, but we've got the COVID safe policy. So everybody on board, crew, the technical staff, and passengers, all vaccinated, all have to be vaccinated. They do a test anywhere between 72 to 96 hours before they leave, depending on the country that they're traveling through. They take a test before they board the ship, and then they have tests throughout the voyage if needed on the ship. And they can do the whole ship, test everyone in less than 2 hours. So they've really embraced that. And then, things like buffets and stuff like that are no longer, someone else will serve that. And so we've made changes on board the ship to accommodate COVID. And Cork's done a really fantastic job. Did you want to layer anything in on that, Tennille?
Covered it, but yeah, when COVID broke out, we have a dedicated COVID task force. So they're constantly monitoring the situation, and we're constantly updating our is. So Bob covered it just with all the 100% vaccinated vessels, but everyone will still have to take masks, and if they can't socially, they will need to wear masks, and then just all the sanitising. We've changed the whole sanitising process on the vessel as well, and we are keeping some cabins empty as well, just in case a really unlikely situation that someone did test positive. But there's been a lot of work. I think we've got the highest standard in the industry of our COVID safe policy, and as Bob said, we've got safe, we've got for science protocols, we've got anytime cancellation, free from crowds, and it's constantly updated. So I was just going to add to that. We've got our own operations on the ground in Ushuaia. We've got Marcelo, so he constantly updates us of just, borders, government regulations, what's happening in Argentina. So just having, 4 vessels and having our own operations rather than going through a third party just makes it a lot easier to keep up to date with the ever-changing situation.
It's probably a stupid question for someone who knows the cruise industry. So I would assume there's probably special regulations when you travel to the polar regions or something compared to the normal regions, if I may say that. First of all, are there any special regulations? And if so, can you maybe give me a quick overview what that means to protect, obviously, the environment in the polar regions?
Yeah, we're founding members actually of IATO and IACO. So in Antarctica, there's 43 operators that take people down to Antarctica. And back in the 1990, 89, 90, actually Cork was a founding member of that group. And we self-regulate ourselves because in Antarctica, there's no one country that runs the regulations down there, right? So we self-regulate, and then all the governments that are involved down there, like Australia, the US, UK, China, they all have their own governmental policies that you have to follow as well. So one of those is what I spoke about earlier, is the maximum of 100 people on a landing site. So that's so that we don't destroy and impact the destination that we're actually visiting. So there's no site in Antarctica that you can have more than 100 people in that particular site at any one time. In some places it's less, and that happens in the Arctic as well. So we adhere to that. We were Cork was on the group that actually self-regulated that. So the committee in IATA that actually came up with that number years ago. So Cork's really on the forefront on those things. There's also areas where you can't take certain ships of certain size. So that's why Cork has chosen ships that are less than 200 so that you can get into those remote areas. A cruise ship, for instance, of 500 or more can't do any landings at all. So these are just some regulations that are in there. I mean, I can go through a whole list of it, but that's kind of gives you an idea of how we're preventing the impact on the wildlife and the environment. Others are, there's certain speeds you can only, certain knots you can go in certain areas because of the whales and their migrations. So we're right in that. Every year there's an IATA meeting that Cork is part of, and Cork's often in that secretariat or leadership in IATA and AACO.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about climate change, obviously, and cruise, potentially in general, but also specifically for Cork, obviously. What is the cruise industry doing to kind of, support climate change to stop climate change, I should say, and to change the image? Because a lot of people think cruising is extremely damaging to the climate. So that's just a statement that's out there. What's your intake on that?
Well, in the DNA of Cork, it's all about, preserving the environments that we travel to, because that is our business as well, so there's certain things that you'll see in Cork. And I guess one that I use as an example is it's called MAGS, a micro auto gasification system. So with this new Ultramarine, we put one of these systems on the ship. And what it is it can take the waste, whether that's pharmaceutical, glass, cardboard, oils, food products, and you put a regular, plastic bag of rubbish into this thing, and it'll reduce it down 95%, and it actually just gets a sludge at the end, and that energy that Mags actually uses to burn or condense it down, gasification. It doesn't burn it; it gasifications it down. Actually, it emits extra energy, which we use back into the ship. But it's sustainable, and I'll give you an example because we'll have voyages that will be, or expeditions will be maybe a month long with 200 people. You can imagine the amount of waste. In the old days, you'd have these bags of trash, and then you'd come back to maybe Ushuaia and landfill it, right? So we no longer have that. So using technology, embracing technology like that, embracing the Inuit communities up in the Arctic region, and bringing them on board and training them up. These are all things that we're doing to kind of our commitment, our promise, the core promise to the environment. And we're constantly doing this through the organization. That was something that really drew me in. So Tennille, you may know more than me, but that was stuff that just jumped right out at me in this topic.
Tennille, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Just to echo what Bob said as well, we've got our Polar Promise. So we've got 4 pillars under our Polar Promise just to continue to ensure that we preserve the. It's been an educational experience, and a lot of our clients that travel and have an ambassador club that passengers or just people that are interested can email to get more information. But it might just be the smallest thing, that having different lectures by, your geologists and your penguinologists and your glaciologists. But then some of the lectures, for example, is just on what you can do to make a difference. It might just be you come back and you just only eat red meat once a week. It doesn't need to be, trying to change the world in one day. It might be trying to buy recycled clothing and just to our whole, climate change is such as part of our Polar Promise as well. We have no single-use plastic. We do clean up Svalbard when we travel on our expeditions to Svalbard. Our passengers participate in cleaning up. So we've got a number of different programs in place. And I met anyone that's travelled to the polar regions that does, no matter how big or no matter how small, and if to passengers having that experience and ensuring that we can continue to travel to these destinations, but in an environmentally friendly way. I feel like we've done a good job.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a very good overview. Yeah, please, Robert.
Yeah, some people, and I've had it in my past life when I was working in expedition world. Some people are really sensitive to going down and visiting these areas, but if you can do it in a sustainable way and not leave a footprint. And reduce that footprint, then I'm amazed in my 4 years that I was working in it and how much people came back and really became advocates and ambassadors when they came back. Once you see it for yourself and you see how delicate it is and how amazing it is, you become a voter, and you get. I wasn't that way, but I am now. I'm really protective of these areas, and I think that happens. You get this ambassadorship that happens when people go down there, and our job is to reduce that footprint as much as possible, so that when they can come back and they can become voters, they can actually do more good. It sounds kind of corny, but it's not. It is. Mm-hmm. When you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Travel is education, as they always say.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'm speaking to the converted.
Yeah, absolutely. Tennille, probably it's a question more for you, but it sounds like for me it's a very complex area you work on, especially with destination cruise, but cruise in general with all the changes. So what do you believe, how can mentorship help someone working in that area to maneuver through or around the obstacles?
Really good question, because there sure is more obstacles, as we know. We've had a challenging 18 months, but I think we're at the end of it. We're about to see the arrival of travel, which is really exciting. And from my experience of, as I said, I did the time program in 2019, but not just from doing the program, from probably more for me afterwards, the 2 years to follow, I've just gained so much out of it. And I genuinely say that, Timo, just from attending the weekly webinars. And I actually attended the Mentor Me program last year that you might remember when COVID broke out. You could reach out to someone in the industry and just kind of help me reset myself on its feet and just kind of look at my personal goals, my career goals, and where I want to go and what direction. So anyone that is listening that is thinking, people in the industry right now willing to kind of extend their experience and their challenges in the next 6-12 months, like I'm prepared for it. But I think with the right network around you, the right team, and a really strong mentor, it's going to be a tougher and better industry than it ever has been before. So I highly recommend it.
Amen. Amen. I second that. Robert, we come to the last question. It's my favorite, and probably everyone who listens knows what's coming. However, I still ask the questions. So something you have bought in the last 6 months for less than $100 that has influenced your life most positively. Please share now.
Ooh. Oh, gosh, less than $100. It would be something to do with like we've all been locked down, right? So for me, it's got to be I don't know what the specific thing is, but it would be probably my old sloppy pair of tennis shoes that's probably worth $5 if nobody did ever want it. I'd probably pay to get rid of it. But just to go out and do, walk on the beach and just get out with the family whenever it became a bit too much with the lockdowns, and just seeing nature, because we're all travelers, and I love traveling international and to remote areas, but we were stuck here, but we made the most of it. And to walk along the beaches in Australia, or get out in the bush and take some walks, that was the stuff that just kept me going. And I think it's just kept me in tune with, just loving life, and realizing some of the smaller things are in the family and stuff like that are so important, and really reconnecting. So maybe that's it. I didn't buy anything. I think I was so frugal during all that time. But I'll just say, maybe the tennis shoes, but maybe no shoes at all. Just walking in the sand, feeling it.
Yeah. I love the tennis shoes though, because I'm a passionate tennis player.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, absolutely. So we should have a hit at some stage. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm open for the challenge.
Yep, for it.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate the insights. I've learned a lot today. And I hope I meet you at one of the networking events in the near future. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. We're going to be all locked out of this, but this is fantastic what you're doing, Timo. This is, I think, like we spoke shortly about this earlier, but what you're doing is really helpful. I mean, people just want to stay in touch now. We've all kind of lost contact of one another, and you bringing it together like this is really huge. So thanks. And always happy to have a chat with you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Fantastic. You will be back for one of the panels for sure. Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate that. Thanks. Thanks.